Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, February 23rd. You are listening to the College Football Daily. I am your host, Lance Glinn. On today's episode, you'll hear from Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman. He joined me for an in-depth conversation on his program early in the offseason as they get set for spring practice coming up. We discuss bringing in transfer quarterback Adrian Martinez from Nebraska, how Deuce Vaughn could one-up his spectacular 2021 season, the future of the Big 12, NIL, the transfer portal, and more. A big thanks to Coach Klieman and Kansas State for coming on. Before we get to our discussion, however, I just wanted to remind everyone to throw us those 5 stars and make sure to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to hear what you think of the College Football Daily, and if you have any show ideas, make sure to share those as well. So without holding you any longer, here is my conversation with Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman. Joined now by the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats, Chris Klieman. Coach, thanks so much for joining me. And I want to ask you first off, I know being a coach in really any sport is a profession with few days off, but with the season behind you, signing day behind you, you're in the early part of the offseason before spring practice. Have you had any time to just, take a breath and relax? Is the word relax, or frankly, even the words day off in a coach's vocabulary at this time of the year?
Probably not, but you still have to find ways to do it, or you're going to run yourself ragged as well as your assistant coaches. So we took a little bit of time right after that second signing period in February, kind of caught our breath and made everybody get out of here for about 5 or 6 days. And then we came back and we've had some winter conditioning and just getting around our guys as best we can. I think the biggest break that you have is the fact that nobody can visit your campus and you can't go visit anywhere else in February. So that's kind of our little bit of a break. Now it ramps up again come March.
So I want to first ask about Adrian Martinez, obviously a multi-year starter at Nebraska, some highs, some lows with the Huskers. He enters the portal. You obviously had Skylar Thompson. He's heading to the NFL. So you were looking for a transfer quarterback, someone to bring in to compete with the quarterbacks you already have in the room. Can you detail the process of bringing him to Kansas State and what you saw in him at Nebraska that, attracted you to wanting him at Kansas State and attracted you to what he can do for the program?
We were talking about trying to add some competition to our room at the quarterback spot. And we have some really good young quarterbacks coming back, but felt like we needed another older guy to compete with those guys, and looked at a lot of different quarterbacks that entered the portal as the process was going on, probably starting about the 1st of December. Saw Adrian had entered the portal. I had worked with Coach Frost at Northern Iowa for a few years, so I know Scott well. I'd worked with Mario Verduzco at Northern Iowa's quarterback coach, so I knew Mario well. And so had some dialogue with Frosty. I know that Collin Klein had some dialogue with Mario. Thought he would be a really good fit here, and somebody that would add an element as far as his ability to make plays. And I watched enough college football over the last few years that he's played an awful lot of college football, had some really good success, was hoping that this would be a spot that he could potentially be a guy that could be a difference maker for us. And so we're going to learn a lot over the next 6 months because he can't practice this spring with an injury, but just getting around our guys and getting around our program and meeting with the other quarterbacks and kind of just building relationships with our team prior to him getting into fall camp where he can truly, really compete with the other guys.
And one of those, quote unquote, other guys who's, I would say, a little bit more than just another guy for your program is Deuce Vaughn leading that backfield. I would think you and offensive coordinator Collin Klein, you sit down and just think of all the possibilities that are there with a player like Deuce. He's just so exciting. I think one of the most exciting players, if not the most in the sport. So much talent, so much ability. He had phenomenal success last year. Can you frankly get him the ball even more than the, tons of times you did last season? What's the plan for him this year to build off of a great 2021 and to showcase that talent off even more?
Yeah, which is hard to do. As much as he carried the ball, as much as he caught the ball, as much as he was an integral part of our offense, but he makes everybody around us, around him better, makes our offensive line better, even though we've got a really good offensive line, makes our passing game. I think that's what probably helped us the most was in the bowl game, we utilized an awful lot of guys outside throwing the football with Phillip and with Cade Warner and with Malik Knowles, and they really stacked the box trying to stop Deuce in the running game, and it opened up our passing game, and we had a healthy Skylar Thompson. So I think the things that Deuce can do is garner so much attention to himself that it's going to make his teammates that much better, which will ultimately make our team that much better. But he's a special talent. You're exactly right. He can beat you running the football. He can beat you inside, outside. He can beat you catching the football. And the other thing, he can beat you by being an unbelievable decoy because he draws so much attention. And with the returners we have at wide receiver, which we have almost everybody back, as well as throw him in there. And then some of the experience we have coming back at quarterback, and you throw Adrian in there with our offensive line. We're excited about what Coach Klein's going to do with that offense.
We'll hear more from Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman when we come back.
Picture this nightmare scenario. You're hosting friends for the big game. It's neck and neck in the fourth quarter, and suddenly you realize you're out of drinks. You start to sweat. Your friends start to turn on you. You're forced to go on a last-second drink run and end up missing the game-winning touchdown while in line. Terrifying, isn't it? Luckily, you can avoid the drama with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your watch party. Compare prices across multiple stores in your area, find the best deals on game day drinks, and get back to armchair quarterbacking from, you guessed it, your armchair. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify is here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
And you mentioned the bowl game. You played LSU, and I'm sure it was an interesting one to prepare for because of what the Tigers were missing from their roster. They converted a wide receiver to play quarterback, had many others missing, but I'm sure had a lot of players that maybe you hadn't seen before. You didn't know their tendencies. You didn't have much or maybe any film on them. I would think that lack of information on them maybe made the game planning quite a bit different than what it would have been had it been, let's say, a regular season game or so.
It's still LSU, and they still have more 4 and 5 stars than most teams do in the country. And they still had some really good players that maybe hadn't played a lot, but that's what college football is right now. You're playing a lot of guys, especially late in the season, due to the transfer portal, due to bowl opt-outs, that guys are getting an opportunity. And I'll tell you, that was as good a front as we saw this year as far as a front four and linebackers. I think they were down some guys in the secondary, and that's probably where we had the most success at. But they still had some really talented guys. And then they had their whole offensive line returning that had played all season. So we're not taking anything away from our players. That was a phenomenal win against an SEC program. And I don't care if it's a day later or a year later or 5 years later, our kids are going to say they beat LSU in a bowl game.
Absolutely. And it was quite the performance offensively, too. And I want to hit on the offense and specifically offensive coordinator Collin Klein. He was named the interim before the bowl game, subsequently had the interim tag removed, and is now the permanent offensive coordinator. He, having been a dual threat quarterback for Kansas State and a obviously very successful one during his time in Manhattan, how can he take this offense to the next level now that he'll have a full offseason to work with it and obviously a full year ahead to game plan?
Well, I think that's the key, is having a full offseason and a full year ahead to game plan. We adjusted a few things in the 3 weeks that we had with Collin as the interim, plus we were on the road. So we really only had about 10 to 12 days of true game planning, and we adjusted a few things. But I'm excited because Collin is going to be very aggressive. He's going to utilize the skill set we have. We have some really good skilled kids, like we talked about. He's going to put his own spin on it, as well as complement some of the things that we've done really well. We've run the football really well in the 3 years that we've been here. We just need to throw the ball, I think, more efficiently, as well as with more explosive plays. And that's something that I think we saw a little bit in the bowl game, was the explosive play capability of our pass game. And so I'm excited. The guys are excited about it. And you have Collin that not only is a former player here who has so much respect of our guys, but he's also a Heisman Trophy finalist, which across the country is pretty cool. When you talk, he doesn't tell anybody that, but we sure utilize that in the recruiting process to say, this guy was a runner-up in the Heisman, and I think he's going to really make his own mark.
Yeah, and like I said before, quite a successful career at Kansas State. I think multiple years of double-digit win seasons when Collin Klein was the quarterback. So I want to move on to the defense. To, I think, the surprise of quite a few people, Daniel Green decided to return for one more season. Did that surprise you at all? Because he's really played himself into quite the NFL draft prospect.
Yeah, I think he really felt like there was more that he wanted to accomplish and more left for him to do. We were excited about Daniel coming back. I think he's one of the top players now returning in the country. I think when the season started, he was just a returning player throughout the country, especially in the Big 12. With the season that he had, I think he realizes he's just kind of scratching the surface. His name's out there now. I think him coming back another year is really, if he has another successful year like he plans on and we plan on him having, I think he knows that'll elevate his status and his stock in the draft world. And we're excited because he's one of our catalysts on defense. And I thought he had a tremendous 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 89 tackles. I think 16 or 17 were tackles for loss. And, I know you switched to the 3-3-5 last season. So with Green returning and another year of Felix Anaduke Uzoma, who led your team in sacks, I think with 11, how much better could this defense get? It was already a great defense, but now another year and another full offseason, I should say, to adjust to this 3-3-5. How much better could this defense get in 2022?
Well, it starts with us as coaches. We have to be better going into the second year of running the defense. We were experimenting with some things, and I think we have to understand the defense better and better and understand where our personnel fits to that defense. But we're excited because Eli Huggins is probably the biggest unsung hero we have returning for his 6th year as a defensive tackle. And I think he's one of the best defensive tackles in the country, and we were able to get him back for a 6th year. We have enough pieces back right now with our D-line, with guys returning. We have both of our corners returning. We added a corner that we think is going to be a really talented kid in Josh Hayes. It's going to help us there as well. Our safeties is where we really need to make sure and do a great job with our development this spring. We have some kids returning and we have some new guys, but I'm excited with what we're going to do in year 2 with this scheme.
So, Coach, a couple more from me. So I was speaking with someone who covers another Big 12 school earlier this week, and he said to me that he thinks once a realignment goes through, Oklahoma and Texas leave, BYU, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati join, that the new look Big 12 could be top to bottom the most competitive Power 5 conference. So many teams recruit at similar levels, and it really could become a conference where year after year a new team is winning because everyone's just so even, top to bottom. What are your thoughts on the conference moving forward once those 4 teams are added and Texas and Oklahoma are subtracted? Do you agree that the parity in the conference could really be that great?
Yeah, and I think there's already tremendous parity. When you look at, Baylor and Oklahoma State played in the Big 12 championship game, and I think we have every week, you better have your A game or you're going to get knocked off. And then you add the 4 schools, and Cincinnati was in the CFP. BYU is always traditionally a great program. You throw Houston and UCF that are great recruiting bases and great markets for us to continue to go to and recruit, as well as great programs. Is it going to be all all those schools plus Oklahoma and Texas for a year. Once those two leave, how will we break up the two divisions? I think we're still learning about what's going to happen, but I agree with you. I'm excited about the divisional play, and I'm excited about the future of the Big 12.
And you brought up something interesting there. You mentioned how schools like Houston and Central Florida could open up some more recruiting grounds because of just how rich in talent Texas and Florida are. I would assume that once those programs come in, and maybe even before they come in, you fully expect to target those areas in recruiting and expand the Kansas State footprint?
Yeah, we've always hit Texas, and I've had success in Florida at previous schools. I think it makes it harder to go get a kid from Orlando or Tampa when there's now a Big 12 school right in their backyard, but probably make them work a little bit more for it too, in the fact of, you potentially had a chance to beat a Group of 5 team. Now it's a Power 5 team, but, it without a doubt opens up a lot of things from recruiting to competitive balance. And I know everybody in the Big 12 is excited about what Commissioner Bowlesby's done once the two teams announced they were leaving. And there was a lot of speculation of what's going to happen to the Big 12. And I think on the back end of this thing, we're going to come out stronger.
So, Coach, last one from me, and I'm really interested in your take because so many coaches, they've given opinions on these two subjects, both during the season and this offseason. NIL and the transfer portal, they've really changed college football just drastically. Do you like the way the game's moving? Do you think there needs to be some changes to those things, name, image, and likeness, and the portal? What do you think of what have really become the two most pressing issues in college football today?
Yeah, I think they're moving a little bit too fast in both areas, but I'm also smart enough to know that they're here to stay. And that's smart. I'm glad they're here to stay. I think kids deserve an opportunity to make some money off their name, image, and likeness. I'm all for it. I think kids, if they're not happy in a spot, have the ability to move on and not lose in a year of eligibility. So I'm in favor of both things. I don't know what those exact regulations are, but I do think we have to slow it down a little bit. I think we're all, as coaches and even as players, because I've talked to a lot of our players, frustrated when somebody leaves mid-season to go to the portal. Maybe they could finish out the season and then go to the portal, maybe have that window a little bit longer for those guys to be able to have that. And then so many kids were entering the portal during the dead period. We need to open up that dead period where, we had, I think we took 5 or 6 guys that semester, a couple that were able to come here on a visit and a couple that we recruited after Christmas that never got the chance to visit our place. Now, we don't want to have this open nonstop during the holidays, but we need to try to find a way that kids can go visit places. Maybe it's before Christmas or right after the first of the year so that they can make sure that they're making the right choice so they don't end up transferring again. But make no mistake, they're both here to stay. And I think all of us understand that, and we've got to embrace it.
Kansas State football, a full offseason ahead, gearing up for their opening game on September 3rd against South Dakota. The head coach of Kansas State football, Chris Klieman. Coach, good luck this season. I hope you and your team stay healthy during the spring and summer. Thanks so much for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
A big thanks to Kansas State and to Coach Klieman for coming on the podcast. It's always great when we're able to speak with head coaches on the College Football Daily, and I'm excited to tell you that there will be quite a few more on as the offseason progresses. For Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman, I am Lance Glinn. Have a good Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for listening to another episode of the College Football Daily.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.